Okay, could we ask everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Okay. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone present today and those watching the broadcast and call the February 21st, 2017 special meeting to order with all board members present. Can we get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Please vote. Okay, if you wish to address the board on any of the agenda items before the board today and your name is not on the speaker list printed on blue paper located at both entrances to the auditorium, and if you've not already submitted a request for public testimony form, please complete the form and submit it to Cheryl Ward, our board action officer. Please note that the board will not hear non-agenda public testimony at today's special meeting. Speakers on agenda items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. Once discussion begins on an item, no additional public speaker requests will be accepted by the board. Public testimony speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, and depending on the total number of speaker requests received by the board on an item, the time may be reduced to 2 or 1 minute each. The time limit for speakers on today's agenda items will be announced at each item. Okay, is Andra here? Not yet? Okay, we don't have any closed session items to report out. Oh, we do, I'm sorry, yeah, okay. Yeah, why don't we just do that? Okay, let's move on to item C1, the first reading of the development of the 2017-18 district budget. Superintendent Martin.
Thank you, President Barrera. We're going to give our update for the 17-18 budget, and with me tonight I have Tish Cook, our interim chief financial officer, and other staff, Tim Espasador, to help with this presentation. We're going to begin by giving a budget update. Then we will discuss our solutions and go into what the impacts of those solutions will be. With that, the framework for this budget is, as we began to do the work, our commitment to protecting the classroom with no changes to our class size limits and no changes to the instructional year, continued our focus on resources to achieve quality schools in every neighborhood. Our goal, as you know, is to achieve financial stability and address the structural challenges. I'll have Tish begin with the projected budget deficit.
I'm going to ask for AV to begin with the projection, please. We need the, thank you. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Martin, district staff, and members of the community. I want to begin, as I like to do whenever I make a presentation, by thanking and commending the staff in many departments, particularly in finance and HR, who have worked very hard to bring the information we are presenting to you tonight. As we wait for the projection to go live, I will start by telling you we have 3 major areas we'd like to cover this evening. One is a budget update. Second is the solutions to the shortfall in the 17-18 fiscal year. And then last are the impacts, particularly on staffing. I want to begin with the framework that we used in developing our solutions to the shortfall next year. Our goal throughout has been to maintain stability in the organization. One of the primary ways that we are doing that is by protecting the classroom. There will be no change to the class size limits in core classes and no change to the instructional year. Our focus is to continue aiming all resources on achieving the goal of quality schools in every neighborhood. But we must have financial stability to do these things, and we face serious structural challenges posed by the imbalance between ongoing revenues and ongoing expenditures. As a recap, this slide was in the presentation I made to you in January, right after the release of the governor's budget. The slide begins with what we estimated the deficit in 2017-18 to be as of December, when we presented to the board the first interim report. At that time, we were saying that the shortfall in 17-18 amounted to $116.6 million, and in 18-19, another $49.8 million. And then the governor's budget came, and much to everyone's surprise, rather than going up, which we all hoped for, his projected revenues to schools went down. And the loss to San Diego Unified in 17-18 was $22.5 million of ongoing revenue. That was slightly mitigated by a 4.8 allocation of one-time revenues, but the damage was done when, instead of going up, the governor chose to withdraw promised revenues. Staff took a close look at the history of expenditures at that point, because remember that when we adopt our budget, we have no actuals, we only have projections. When we do the first interim, we have 4 months of actuals and 8 months of projections. A month later, or several months later at second interim, we would have had more actuals, fewer projections. So we looked ahead to the second interim and said, are there things happening that we might be able to anticipate, not wait for the second interim, in order to offset some of the damage done by the governor's budget proposal? And those are summarized in the next several lines, which brings us to today, when we are facing $124.4 million in shortfall for 17-18. Back in December, we said that there were a number of areas in which we would be looking for solutions to the budget. They were strategies we were pursuing, and they're listed here again. 11 of these 12 strategies are part of the solutions that we are bringing to you tonight. The only one we did not pursue was revisions to health benefits. There are no benefit changes proposed for 17-18. However, we do have budget solutions in all of the other categories. Again, a little background. In December, at the first interim report, we proposed 3 general categories of reductions that would be primarily affecting the central office, primarily affecting centralized support services, and then those we hoped we'd never get to, primarily affecting schools. But as we come forward tonight, we are bringing you a different scenario, reaching the $124.4 million that needs to be achieved, substantially more of which is coming from the central office, and substantially less of which will come from schools. We always want to acknowledge that the numbers can change, and there are a number of areas in which they could improve or become somewhat less optimistic. First of all, we will be updating the board at second and third interim reports. We're required to do a third interim because of our qualified status. And those reports give us an opportunity to review and update our current year and our projections. We also have the May revise, which we all anticipate and hope that will improve the picture. And we have, unfortunately, conflicting information coming from the state about the May revise. The legislative analyst continues to be far more optimistic than the governor's office, believing that there will be more state revenues and therefore more benefit to schools. On the other hand, the Department of Finance just recently said, well, better revenues in January just offset the lower revenues in December, and the governor's revised forecast, the one in his budget in January, is now on target. So we have 2 extremes. We are required to use the governor's number in our projections, but in May, when the revise does come out, if things are more optimistic, there could be additional revenues. But I think it's very important for the board to be aware that even if the May revise restores the entirety of what was lost in January, we are still facing more than $100 million in reductions in 17-18. So the May revise is not a place to look for eliminating our problem. It may help, but we will still need to make reductions. We also are concerned about our efforts to control encroachment, what is known as encroachment, a general fund contribution to early childhood education and special education. We've been working all year with those departments in an effort to minimize their impact on the general fund, but that's a difficult task. We are also concerned about potential reductions in federal funds. We have already seen some indications that the state will be holding back some Title I funds that they are now entitled to hold back. That will have a direct effect on schools. And finally, we continue to be concerned about decline in enrollment, since this district has been experiencing that over the last few years. There are, as I said, the May Revise presents an opportunity for improvement, and we have, in this year, initiated hiring and spending freezes in the hope of generating some savings that would have not materialized until the end of the year. I want to show you a couple of slides that give you an idea of what we have done in the way of impacts on budgeted FTEs. This chart is a budgeted FTE chart by bargaining unit. The outer circle represents the status in 2016-17, and the inner circle is what the status would be should the board approve all of these solutions. Now, I know no one can see what those numbers say at a distance, so I will tell you a little bit about them. But you can tell from the coloration of the slices of the two circles the general conclusion that we've reached, which is that this is a overall shrinking of the organization, but roughly in the same percentages as currently exist. So, for example, in the current year, the SDEA bargaining unit comprises 51.3% of all FTEs in the budget, and if all of the solutions are adopted, they will represent 51.6% of the FTEs in the budget. All of the units' reductions are roughly comparable to their distribution in the current budget. And overall, certificated non-management, that is SDEA, is 51.6% of the budgeted FTE, or would be in 17-18. Classified non-management would be 43.1%, and management confidential would be 5.2%, very close to their existing distribution. Then I want to call your attention to one other chart that shows where the proposed reductions hit. On the right and left, on the left-hand side is management, and on the right is confidential. In the middle on the left is certificated non-management, and in the middle on the right is classified non-management. The management and confidential bars show that the reduction in those two groups is slightly more than 13% of their FTEs, and the two middle bars show that the reductions proposed for certificated and classified bargaining units is roughly 7% of their FTEs. So that is the budget update, and now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Esvazador to talk more about the impacts on staffing.
Good evening, Superintendent Martin, President Barrera, school board members, and community. My role tonight is to share information about the human resource impact of the budget. We'll review the actions required for certificated employees, the certificated layoff process, their procedure, and the classified layoff procedure. Certificated employees fall into three different categories, or they have three different types of status. And so we treat those three different groups in a little bit different ways. So permanent certificated employees are, we follow the Ed Code procedure for the layoff. For probationary employees, the Ed Code actually provides that a school district can negotiate a different type of process for layoff of probationary employees, and so we follow the contractual process for the probationary group. And then temporary employees, we guarantee them a year's contract Actually, the board took action this evening in closed session to have us release all the temporary employees, and we need to do that before we actually can lay off probationary or permanent employees. So the certificated layoff procedure, the ed code is listed there. Employees are laid off in senior, the least senior person is laid off, and they come back in inverse order. The employees are entitled to a hearing in front of an administrative law judge. And the difference for probationary employees is that we have Article 19. They're laid off in order of least senior and reemployed in the inverse order. They aren't entitled to a hearing, but they can file a grievance through their contractual process if they believe that there's something wrong with the layoff procedure for them. So what we end up having to do is identify information on how this is going to impact certificated employees. So in order to lay off the certificated group, the board has to actually make a decision to reduce or to eliminate what we call a PKS, or particular kinds of service. So what we have to do in HR is actually go through and work with the school sites and the departments, identify the credential areas that they're going to need for next year, the subjects that they're going to have to teach, and so we gather all that information, and that what we end up having to do is look for employees whose credentials are no longer needed. And in the end, that's what our PKS group is. We look at what the needs of the schools are, the staff that we have, and in the end, we have more of a certain type of teacher than we need at this point in time. So the PKS and layoff process, what are the factors in determining our specific PKS? So there are a number of variables or factors that are involved. The number of administrators that through this budgeting process are going to be returning to a classroom. They have credentials to teach in California, and if they have seniority, they go back into a classroom assignment. So that's a variable or a factor that we have to consider. The number of central office, we're going to be having a reorganization in the central office. We don't know who those resource teachers are going to be, but the people that were impacted by the reorganization, they have credential areas that they could be in a classroom, and we need to take that into consideration. The number of vacancies that we have to staff due to changes in the master schedule, because this year I need more English teachers, next year I need more math teachers, so we may have more math or English teachers that are affected by this process. And then we had the budget solutions, and we had an FTE that came out of all the different cuts that took place. And that's where we come up with our final FTE that's identified in the PKS. And so it's the number of FTEs that is no longer needed by the credential areas, either through the elimination or the reduction of a program, or the service model that we've been providing in the past, we're not going to be providing in the future. What are the variables that could impact the layoff group, which I think is the most important part of this slide, is that there are things that are going to change before we have to send out final layoff notices that will allow us to pull back some of those notices. Things like master schedule changes, that's happened in February, but people who end up taking a leave of absence or return from a leave of absence, staff that fill in those central office positions, once we know what their credential area is, we're going to be able to pull back some layoff notices. We're going to be talking, you actually have a board item a little later, retirees. We have an MOU that we just agreed to with SDEA to offer a CERP. Once we have that information, we'll be able to pull back more layoff notices. And then, like any large organization, we have resignations, and every time we get a resignation, we can pull back a layoff notice. So the credentials of the staff are evaluated in this process and matched with the specific positions that we need for next year. And then in the end, the staff that have credentials that are no longer needed are on that list that you see, that list A that shows the PKS group. This slide just gives you some basic dates that that kind of fill out this process. The resolution, you're going to be looking at the resolution for approval next week. HR works to get the notices out to people between March 1st and March 13th. April, the second week of April, we have to be determined, but the second week of April, we would have hearings for permanent teachers. May 7th, the administrative law judge actually has to make their final decision on the layoff list at that point in time by May 7th so that we can make some final decisions. And then the final notices go out and have to be approved by the board before May 15th for certificated employees. The classified layoff procedure is also governed by the Ed Code. We have to give, we're required, it used to be 45-day notice. Now employees are required to receive a 60-day notice before they're either laid off or reassigned. Each bargaining group actually has specific layoff language in their contracts, and so we follow those procedures. We have classified employees a little bit different than certificated in that they don't have a hearing prior to their layoff. Employees may be eligible to be reemployed in another position for which they're qualified, and that's that bumping process that takes place. So the elimination or reduction of positions is specific by the position title they're in, their work year, the hours they have for all of the different classified positions. And they're identified, first we look for vacant positions that are not filled right now or are vacant right now because someone resigned or retired recently. The end of grant or foundation funding, department reorganizations through these budget solutions, school site priority changes, and the least senior employee is the one that's affected first here. So the seniority placement of employees in these in classified positions are impacted have the ability to go into other positions that they had based on their seniority, a position that they had previously been in. And this is known as the bumping process. And so you could have, this slide actually shows you have someone that's got 9 years seniority and they bump someone at another school that actually has 7 years seniority. That person with 7 years seniority could bump someone who has 5 years in that same classification, and that 5-year person is the person that goes out. But you can see that it affects 3 people in that bumping process. And then if that 5-year person actually had seniority in another classification, they could actually bump someone else. So it could be more than 3. The timeline for classified employees, we're going to bring to you for a board decision regarding the issuance of the layoff notices on the 28th. Between the March 1st and 3rd, HR is preparing the notices to be sent out. March 6th, we're going to have informational meetings for classified employees that would be impacted by the layoffs. The 10th through the 16th, employees have to make decisions on whether or not they're going to accept the bump, if they're going to take a reduction in hours. They have to make some decisions, so they get an opportunity to do that, and there's a period of time for them to do that. And then March 17th, assignment letters sent to the affected classified employees, and they have to come back to HR again and let us know that they've accepted the new assignment or they're laid off. And then June 30th is the last day that they're in their current position, and then the layoff is effective July 1st. And if they're bumping into another position, they start in their new position on July 1st. There are some supports that we're putting in place in the HR department. We have some online or in-person or via telephone supports through the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program. It's one of the benefits that comes with our district, for district employees through our health benefits. And it's a very effective program for people that are impacted by something like this. We have frequently asked questions that we have posted on our HR website. We have informational meetings that we are scheduling in March. And then once people actually bump into another position that they may not have held for a long period of time, we're going to have some transition workshops for those employees and their supervisors so that they can figure out how they're going to build their skills back up to that level that they were at when they were in those positions before.
Thank you, Mr. Esfazador. So, board members, as you know, this is the first read of the proposed solutions to balance the 17-18 budget totaling $124.4 million, including the specific budget solutions and resolutions to reduce or eliminate certificated and classified services. This is for information tonight. The first reading and action on these items will be next Tuesday, February 28th, and I appreciate staff for bringing forward the information to share with you this evening.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent and Tish and Tim. We've got a long list of public speakers, so we want to allow everybody to speak, but we're going to limit it to 1 minute apiece. And I will call you up, and so please come up as I announce your name. Kelly Simpson, Dale Huntington, Susanna Emery, Dana Ellis, Ito Gelly, Lindsay Birmingham, Angela Reek, Keisha Borden. Go ahead.
Even out in order?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, I have copies of... All right, here we go. First, I'd like to start off by thanking you.
Just tell us your name.
My name is Dale Huntington.
Thanks.
I appreciate all that you do and understand you have to make hard decisions. My father was an elementary school principal for over 30 years in Chula Vista in Los Angeles, and we understand budget cuts. Choyes Meade Elementary School dates back to 1886. However, in the 1980s, 2 schools merged to become Choyes Meade Elementary. Every morning, our principal and vice principal switch off which schools they watch over. It really is 2 campuses to juggle. It's unfathomable to imagine one administrator to see over both effectively. Speaking of which, 3 weeks ago when our principal was at a meeting with the school district, we had a man with a knife on top of the school. Without Ms. Flores, our VP, it is hard to imagine our lockdown procedure would have gone so well and something devastating could have happened. Choyes Meade has a large majority of Spanish-speaking families. Ms. Flores works as the liaison to the EALC, as well as she helps to implement the vision of our principal while communicating it to parents who sometimes speaks 0 English. Alongside our principal, she inspires our Hispanic families to dream big for their children. Without Ms. Flores at Choyes Meade, truancy will go up. Ow, oh my gosh. Children may find themselves on a negative trajectory, which could cost the budget thousands on the long run. Does that mean I'm done, or is
Yes.
that?
Thanks, Dale. Thank you. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Simpson, and I am a certified occupational therapy assistant. I've been an assistant for 19 years. In short, we are called COTAs. I'm shocked and deeply saddened that the board has proposed to eliminate 10 COTA positions or reduce their hours. I feel this will negatively impact our students. It is important to have COTAs to provide federally mandated occupational therapy services to special education students according to their IEPs. COTAs provide OT services to students in order to assist them in reaching their IEP goals and participating in their educational setting. The students that need to receive occupational therapy services would be impacted without the support of COTAs, especially since children qualifying for special ed support services are growing at a rapid rate. CODA positions are the only qualified positions that can legally support OT specialists in meeting federally mandated services to students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Martin, and staff. I'm Dana Ellis, president of the San Diego Schools Police Officers Association. I come before you to talk about the proposed cuts to school police. These cuts amount to approximately 25% of my department's budget. Currently, the entire classification of community service officers is due to be eliminated as of July 1st, as are several other sworn police positions. These eliminations are not in alignment with the district's philosophy of restorative practices. These cuts will significantly impact school security and classroom safety in the following ways: diminished supervision of students during arrival, lunch, and dismissal times, loss of monitoring and direct supervision of traffic issues, loss of maintaining the state-mandated comprehensive school safety plans, loss of counseling and mediation for at-risk students, and loss of experts in the solving of crimes and protecting the rights of our student victims. These losses will translate into a loss of students. It is a proven fact that if students don't feel safe, they don't attend school. Students lose out on their education. The district loses its students. In effect, the district will fail its students. A positive school climate is a listed priority for the superintendent as directed by the board. How does the school's climate remain positive if the students don't feel safe? Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Martin and President Barrera and board members. I am also a certified occupational therapy assistant, and I speak to you on
Give us your name real quick.
Susanna Emery.
Thanks,
I'm sorry.
Yep.
It has come to my attention that the OT assistant position is one of those positions that is going to be cut during this budget crisis. I feel that this will directly impact the students that we serve as we directly provide services to these students on a daily basis. OT assistants are skilled and licensed and collaborate and assist in treatment planning and administering of OT treatments. We are sometimes the front lines as our OTs are tasked with assessments, meetings, and consult services. We are the front lines in delivering these services for their mandated IEP goals. OT assistants are educated and trained to use clinical reasoning. We help to plan the best treatments that are at the just right challenge for every student. We help them to successfully access the academic environment, help them socially, and help to self-regulate in the classroom. Please consider us and make us a priority in your decision. Thank you.
Lindsay Birmingham. As details of the district's proposed slash and burn cuts to our programs across the SDA bargaining unit have emerged, I've found myself in shock. This week's board documents show a plan to issue over 800 layoff notices to programs like elementary prep, special education, child development, counseling, and many high school departments. These layoffs are based on a hypothetical worst-case scenario budget that won't be revised until May or June. We know there are better ways to resolve the budget challenges, such as retirement incentives, natural attrition, reducing administrative costs, and full-fledged efforts to reduce declining enrollment. The superintendent and others have told me that these are just notices and we shouldn't overreact. But as you know, I have been on the receiving end of these just notices. I know what it's like to get the envelope in the mail with the accusation. I know what it's like to feel that your employer doesn't value and respect the countless hours and blood, sweat, and tears you put into your job. I know what it's like to still go to work every day and put a smile on my face when you know that you don't have medical insurance or aren't going to be able to pay your rent. I know what it's like to go through this day after day, the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen. It's not just a notice. I urge the board to be a respectable employer and provide direction to our superintendent and administrative team to control this deficit by keeping the cuts away from our students and not including layoffs and showing the respect our educators, students, and families deserve.
Good evening. I'm Angela Rickey. I'm the ed specialist at Crown Point Junior Music Academy. So what do we want our students to see happen? First of all, I want to say I'm grateful to work for a district that puts out the message. Recently, you put out a message that we are here to educate and keep all our students safe. As a result of the last election, I made a conscious decision that I was going to be more active in my community, especially with issues that impact my community directly. And I'm hearing a story. I'm listening to a story that's being told by our former students, our graduates of San Diego Unified School District that are in college right now, and they're making career choices. And the choice that they don't want to make is they don't want to become teachers. So the very people that loved them, taught them, kept them safe, they don't want to be, because it's not a safe career choice. So I just hope you keep in mind the lasting impressions that your decisions make on our students. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Suzanne Friedrich. I'm an art teacher at Claremont High School, and I just wanted to tell you what's happened at Claremont since the proposed budget cuts. 2 weeks ago, our principal asked me to her office to eliminate my position as an art teacher, and that same week, the music department was completely eliminated in the SGT. The theater program will be eliminated, and drama is going to be taught now by an English teacher. This leaves only one visual arts teacher for the entire high school. Marston Middle School offers band, orchestra, jazz, visual arts, graphics, drama, and industrial arts. So what will they have when they transition to Claremont? The district's 2020 vision to provide equitable arts programs for all students is not evident at Claremont. We're losing our music and theater arts programs. When you lose existing programs or they close, it's very difficult and even more expensive to rebuild them. By neglecting the arts and continually reducing staffing and support in these subjects, it's the same as demolishing the program. So how can one person cover the whole high school?
My name is Keisha Borden. I teach at Zamorano Fine Arts Academy, which serves approximately 1,200 students. This year's allocations have hit our campus especially hard in two areas specifically: noon duty and administration. Our noon duty employees covered 2 playgrounds that accommodate 3 lunch recesses. Last year, our campus was allocated almost 2 full-time positions to cover our noon duty needs. This year, that was cut to less than half of 1 full-time position. That cuts our noon duty staff down to only about 5 people to cover 2 playgrounds and 1,200 students. Now, the district may argue that every elementary school received an equal allocation. We all know that equal is not the same as equitable. 4 or 5 might be enough to cover 200 or even 400 students, but when you have 4 or 5 people supervising 600, 800, 1,200 students, is that safe? Adequate supervision is imperative to the safety and security of our students. Providing the same number of adults to supervise 1,200 students versus 250 may be equal, but not nearly equitable.
My name is Scott Mon. I'm a teacher at the Language Academy.
Before you go, I'm just going to call some more people up.
Okay.
Jared Enyart, Christina Catan-Sariti, Lenny Frausto, Lynn Glynn, Kaloni Brown, Anne-Marie Haney, Anna Bonatati. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay. Good evening, Superintendent Martin and President Barrera and the rest of the board members. At school, I'm Scott Mon from the Language Academy. At school sites and in the classrooms where our children learn, educators have been taking punches for a long time, and they just keep coming. Those who claim to be our leaders have let us down for their lack of just that, leadership. Over the past 5 years, we have seen the district obsessed with making superficial changes, such as renaming departments, going from the Department of Teaching and Learning to the Department of Leadership and Learning. We have not seen them lead our communities and district in advocating for greater resources or working to fix statewide inequities in revenue increases. This is a singular symptom in an ever-widening web of educator exclusion from institutional decision-making. The passage of Proposition 13 in the late 70s originally meant to help owners whose mortgages were rising at uncontrollable rates has led to inequities in property tax assessment on private businesses. The load of property tax has shifted from the business owner to the homeowner in an unbalanced way so that homeowners are now carrying somewhere around 75% of the property tax burden. A lot more, I'll just go cut it down here. If the leaders of San Diego Unified are serious in wanting to resolve its long-standing budgetary issues, then those of you who populate these offices must listen and reintegrate the voices of classroom and site educators into the decision-making process. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. I am representing child development educators. Early childhood educators.
Can you give us your name?
Are here tonight.
I'm sorry, can you give us your name, please?
Rebecca Reynoso Luna.
Okay.
I am here tonight to say that the plan to lay off more than 30% of ECE teachers is wrong. Our students are the youngest, most vulnerable students. They come from low income and poverty. Research has shown and proven that these students are more likely to graduate if they attend preschool. Voting to cut early childhood program and teachers is a vote to cut the graduation rate in San Diego. The child development program has also experienced a lot of mismanagement from the top this year. Top district managers in the superintendent's cabinet made decisions in September. Number one, they closed child development centers with enrolled students in the classes and moved the teachers to new sites with no enrolled students. That doesn't make sense. Number two, they closed licensed child development centers and moved the teachers to unlicensed classrooms at new sites. That doesn't make sense either. 5 months later, there were still classrooms that are unlicensed and do not have students, yet have teachers. This is wrong, and it would not have happened except for bad management choices. ECE teachers oppose all layoffs. But we want to tell you, loud and strong, the child development teachers must not pay the price for bad management from above.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Jared Enyart, Mission Bay High School. I brought my budget priorities with me this afternoon. If my family was deficit spending 10% above our income, I would do everything in my power to keep these budget cuts away from these three boys. They won't stop playing soccer. Piano lessons will still continue. We'd still show up at karate on Wednesday nights. My neighbors are still going to hear the trumpet before dinner. They'll still be competing in Lego robotics at Legoland, and we'll still be camping this summer for vacation. Because as a responsible parent, I shield my children from austerity. My wife and I take the hit. We just won't be replacing the 9-year-old minivan. We won't be upgrading to fancy new iPhones, and our dates will be a lot less fancy and expensive. If it's my mismanagement, my boys are not going to suffer. History tells me that worst case scenario never materializes, and my children should not suffer. I implore you to solve the budget issue with natural attrition and cutting central office administrative bloat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christine Catanzariti, and I'm an occupational therapy specialist with San Diego Unified since 2010. I currently serve Central and Webster Elementary. I am not currently on the slate to be cut, but in a stand with solidarity with my coworkers, I'm up here. I'm going to jump around to some points since we have limited time. I really believe in social justice for persons with disabilities. Poverty, employment, and disabilities is the next great civil rights battle. People with disabilities experience the highest rate of poverty of any subcategory of Americans. Equally troubling is the disproportionate labor force participation rate. For persons with disability, it's 19%, and for persons without disabilities, it's 68%. OT is a federally mandated related service. You cannot replace us. They have to be provided. And if you cut the assistant positions, really what that turns around to be is hiring more vendor occupational therapy specialists. We don't even have enough staff to cover the federally mandated IEP services at that point. Every contracted therapist is over $100 an hour, so how does that make any sense to replace vendor occupational therapy specialists in the place of OT assistants? This cannot happen. In the spirit of Central Elementary, I dream big, and I really think that there are solutions available. I have some signed letters I provided, and I invite you to come visit my site or any other site to see what exactly we do and what a vital source we are in this school district. Thank you.
Lenny Frosto, VP of Custodian. I just want to say that clean, safe, and secure, that's what custodians do. The last layoffs, we lost quite a bit of custodians, and to me, we've been back and forth with the district about I feel it's already unsafe as it is, okay? So 64 more, I don't think so. It doesn't look good. It's going to be even worse. So say no to cuts.
My name is Lynn Glenn. I'm here on behalf of my grandson Liam and the other moderate severe special ed students of the Allied Gardens area. I'm here to ask you to reconsider the consolidation of 4 mod severe classrooms into one at Marvin Elementary. This move is supposed to save money without affecting the quality of education. It will negatively affect Liam and many others. First, Liam will be exiled from his 4th grade classmates of 4 years and his foster elementary family, a loss for Liam, for his typical peers, and for the school community. Second, Marvin Elementary has no private upgraded ADA bathroom with a lift and large-sized changing area. Foster does. Marvin has no sensory room used daily by the foster kids. Primetime, a no-cost after-school program used by many mod severe families for not just their mod severe children, but for other children as well, is not available at Marvin. That's what we need, more expenses for special ed families. Please consider consolidating 4 schools into 2 at Foster and Marvin and meet the academic and social needs of our students.
Good evening. Anne Marie Haney, Community Council for Music in the Schools. The present proposal in terms of music would eliminate instruction in instrumental music for students in 70 schools. We know from the past, and that goes back 48 years in my case, that we have lost immediately within the next school year instruction in middle and high schools. We already have 11 middle and high schools with teachers on part-time positions. Any loss of student enrollment and more classes will be gone, as will as the teachers. Cut this down. I can name the high schools that were lost in previous budget cuts from the elementary, 15. I can name them all. Some of them include, from every one of your clusters, Morris, Montgomery, that's middle school, that also, Mission Bay, Madison, Kearney, Hoover, Crawford, La Jolla High for 8 years. University City opened and did not have a music teacher for 18 years. They had uniforms, they had musical instruments, but we need to work together and come up with a solution so we don't lose these teachers, or we're going to lose it all. We have a lot to lose. You've done so well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Colony Brown. I'm also board-certified licensed occupational therapy assistant. I love my job and the tremendous value that it brings to the quality of life to the most vulnerable student populations that we have. What do? Overall, I can list everything on a list of paper, but we ensure that these vulnerable students have the opportunity to provide for themselves, to get jobs, to get access to their academic needs in a way that no other person in our field does. We as CODAs cost significantly less as our OT specialists, but yet we focus 75% of our workday in direct treatment hours. These treatment hours that not only deter parents' abilities to successfully sue the district for non-compliance, which I don't know, I looked it up, I believe that's about hundreds of thousands of dollars per student per suit, but also increases students' ability to learn, gain independence, access their learning environment, and overall improve the quality of their life. Can you imagine for a moment the negative impact of accessing 10 CODAs? who directly affect the lives of 500 to 750 students, there are solutions other than accessing our positions that should be explored.
Okay, thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
And Anna, as you come up, I'm just going to call Donis Cornell, Laura Gunn, Marianne Hawk, Mariam Ahmed, and Dan Yamanga. Go ahead.
Anna Bonatati. I'm thinking, where does the money go? Because we just got increases from the state, and we've been fighting for these increases, the taxes, so we have more money for our schools. So I decided to go on Transparent California. And that was really interesting because you see where there's been increases to a lot. So like between 2013 and 2015, because it only goes to 2015, our superintendent's salaries increased by $84,000. That's 44% increase. We've got a chief info officer who received $20,000 over their regular pay for other. I don't know what that is. We've got a chief of student services officer that received $40,000 over their regular pay, and that's this year. Our executive directors, we've doubled that since 2013. As I hear people talking about how they're going to be losing security and stuff, that's where the money is. It's up at the top.
Hi, my name's Laura Gunn. I'm a parent of fourth graders. Sorry. My kids have IEPs, as do a number of the other fourth grade kids at my school. And this discussion has been a little dry and abstract, so I brought some pictures of some of the fourth graders at our school. This is Ahmad. This is my son, Kyle. This is Elizabeth. This is my son, Logan, with Jane, the magnificent resource teacher. I don't want to use up all my time, but our IEP kids are part of the fabric of our school. They add diversity and love at so many levels. There's only 2 moderate to severe kids in our school, and they're both fourth graders. They've been there since day 1. They've been there since kindergarten. And next year, they're going to have to go to some other school. Sorry, I just have a few more things to say. Our mild to moderate kids, including my kids,
Laura, just kind of wrap it up.
have been working with the same remarkable professionals for years. They need consistency. They need trust.
Okay.
These are not the kids that are going to be playing on the sports fields or accepted into the baccalaureate programs. They're not going to be creating glory on
Laura,
your website.
Thank you.
But they need your help. Please don't cut from special ed.
Good evening. I'm Donis Cornell. I'm the Executive Director and President of the Administrators Association of San Diego, the union that currently represents almost 600 of your school district principals, vice principals, central office certificated managers, and classified managers and supervisors. The position eliminations that you have before you tonight, as well as the certificated management eliminations that will be forthcoming, are very troublesome to AASD. Statements have been made by the district on various media outlets and social media that the proposed cuts are far away from the classroom. If anyone thinks that eliminating vice principals at elementary, middle, K-8, and high schools, eliminating early childhood education administrators at CDCs, and eliminating classified supervisory staff at school sites is cutting away from the classroom and away from children, you are sorely mistaken. These cuts are draconian and will have a serious impact on the safety of our students, as well as a negative impact on services and support provided to the students and staff at school sites. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Marianne Hawk. I'm a parent in the district and chair of the GATE District Advisory Committee. I speak for more than 25,000 students in the district who've been identified as gifted. As you make difficult decisions, we want to urge you to continue to support the GATE program. The Marlin Report states that gifted children require differentiated educational programs and services beyond those normally provided by the regular school. Often people associate giftedness with success and high achievement and assume that these children do not need special services and will do just fine on their own. However, that is not often true. GATE is a cross-cutting issue, and many GATE children are also English language learners, face socioeconomic challenges, or live in a military family. They may be twice exceptional, meaning that they have dual diagnosis of giftedness paired with another factor like a learning disability. The divergent thinking and intensities that come with giftedness are an inherent part of who these children are, and we cannot teach only half the child. Gifted education matters, gifted children matter, and every child deserves a year of growth. Thank you.
Okay, Aaron Belfer, Sabrina Hanlon, Kimberly Carpenter, Shell, Mary Lou Finley, Ann Barron, Jeremy Haas, and I think it's Patricia Mejorado. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Erin Belfer. I'm here tonight representing Showing Up for Racial Justice San Diego. I'm also a parent of a child, a sixth grader at the Language Academy. It's very emotional listening to all these people talk tonight about what we're facing. It feels like a lot of trauma in this country and in this city right now. Yesterday, we saw bomb threats at numerous JCCs around the country, and a Jewish cemetery had headstones knocked over in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, our president, or the president of the United States, announced an immigration ban that is wide-sweeping and will impact our students and our families. And his press secretary today announced that it will be up to the states, not the federal government, to decide whether to discriminate against LGBTQ students. This is our moment in this district to stand up, and one of the things that's on the chopping block is the Race, Human Relations, and Advocacy Office. This is an important office. It's a $750,000 a year office. I would urge you to find another place to cut, because as long as our teachers want to help our students have those hard conversations, they need the support and the advocacy. Thank you very much.
Sabrina Hannon, Para-President. To speak to the noon duty, we are eliminating 1/3 of the noon duties that cover 200 schools. I'm a health tech. Even with the current number of people that we have covering children, I've had concussions, broken arms. What's going to happen to those kids when there's nobody out there watching them? We have an impact to my people of about 18%. That's either layoffs or reductions. I have numerous people that are going to be losing their benefits. Who's going to be running the libraries? You've eliminated 130 librarian assistants. That's in elementary schools. Or you've reduced them to an hour a week to cover up to 600-700 kids in an hour. Good luck. The cuts across to all these people are impacting our students, and that's what we're here for, our students. We work hard every day. We work side by side with the rest of these educators to ensure they get a great education. If you remove us, it's not going to happen.
Hi, my name is Ann Barron. I'm with the Peace Resource Center of San Diego. We have about 400 members that are engaged in the community of San Diego. We also are heavily invested in restorative practices. We have a peace-building partnership with Rowan Elementary School, and we are very concerned. Is it true that the Race and Human Relations and Advocacy Department is on the list to be cut? Because that's what I've been hearing. Along with the early childhood staff and the English learner support staff? Wow. So these are our vulnerable, resilient but vulnerable at the same time members of our community. I remember that there was a press conference with some of the school board members and the superintendent in December promising to protect those among us that are most vulnerable. And so I wanted to, I did have another question too. Among the district administration, what is the demographics? I'm just curious about that.
Ann, thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Mary Lou Finley. I'm SEA at Bell Middle School, 72 years old. Been with the district since '98, more or less. I have a couple of questions. First one, we're always told to be proactive instead of reactive, and I wonder where everybody was when the president was saying, or not the president, the governor was saying that he was putting more money into a rainy day fund. Maybe he should look around. We're in the middle of a hurricane in our schools. So we need that money for our education, not a rainy day fund. Number two, I've been listening to story after story of how services and support to our children, especially our special ed children whose support and services are demanded by federal and state law, are going to be covered if you take away all these people. You're going to expect one person to take 5 people's positions? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patty Mejorado. I'm a school counselor, and I'm also on the governance team. 2 years ago, when departments were being reorganized and cuts were happening affecting school counselors, there was no shared decision-making despite counselors' opposition. School counselors have a program governance that meets every month. Last week, during our governance, we were finding out that several departments received notices of the elimination of their counselors and or dismantling of the departments. This directly affects school counselors and other positions at school sites. In the last 2 years, no one from the districts has approached any of us on governance to take part in the shared decision-making process. And here we are again facing the lack of transparency and the lack of shared decision-making. Support staff who directly work with students have received notices. While you indicate that sites are not directly affected, this is untrue, and it is evident that you are not doing what's best for students. With a caseload of 2,132 for students per one elementary school counselor, schools are forced to pay out of their site budgets. Eliminating departments like counseling and guidance and race and human relations and CSOs is only eliminating the ability to move forward with restorative practices, but it's also taking away from services for students during these times of uncertainty. So I ask you to put students first, and you know what's going on in society. Students are scared and they're coming to us for support. You're eliminating all these site support staff. You are not there at the sites dealing with this. So I urge you to put students first.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Haas. I'm a parent with 2 daughters in the GATE program that you heard about just before. So I'm here, like the speakers before me, with some questions. The first one is, what is the plan for GATE and seminar? The second question is, why can't foundations help support and augment the budget of the staff for their local neighborhood schools? And the third one is really, how can you approve this budget without more of the details and a discussion of some of the alternatives like those we've heard today? So quickly, first, I want to comment on the GATE and seminar budget, but I can't because I don't know the context. There's a $400,000 cut, but I don't know if that means that admin will be shifted to other programs, or if the principals have discretion, or if there are other alternatives. I don't know, so I can't really comment. I don't know how you can either. But it has made a big difference for my children. My 2 daughters, without this, or with the program, it's really enabled them to flourish and grow and apply their special skills, which otherwise they probably would have struggled with. Second is, our school foundation currently supports a couple of part-time staff. Those positions are scheduled to be eliminated. I don't know why, and I don't know why we can't augment the budget like that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Xiao Xiao, and I'm a student from Crawford High School. I'm here today because I would like to let you know that you take away the new arrival center because you want the student to get a higher rate of graduation. However, why you try to take off all the teacher if you expect the high rate graduation? Because if you do that, there will be a lot of students who graduate, because we need our teacher to help us, and we need our teacher to give us extra support, because they are the one who there for us, and they are the one who know our problems. And we need our teacher to be there, because if you try to take away everything for us, how can you expect all the students to graduate on time, and how will you expect the graduation rates to get higher and higher each years? That is what I want to say. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mariam Ali. I'm a parent of Crawford, Horaceman, and Ibarra Elementary School for 11 children. I am here tonight, all these cuts that affected an English learner. English learner need more support than anybody, because they get the most grant. For the English learner, get most grant. We want our children to have the best teacher. We don't want to hear we lay off teacher or this ELST and extra and counselor that they have. We want our children education to go forward, not backward. They've been traumatized. We don't want you to give us a more trauma that we've been through. We don't need more traumatized. Don't traumatize the teacher. We want the teacher to be happy, to get the best pay, to teach our children, okay? We don't want this. We've been through a lot. We need more teachers, more resources to our kids who doesn't know anything. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes public testimony. This is a first reading. Any questions or comments from board members? Nope. Okay, we will move on to item C2. Item C2 is the resolution to adopt a public agency retirement services supplementary early retirement plan for eligible employees, and an agreement with our Phase 2 systems to provide administrative management services for the district supplementary early retirement plan.
I'd like to move item C2 to direct staff to pursue early retirement incentives with all units.
Okay. Second. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. We've got two public speakers, Lindsay Birmingham and Citizen. Citizen, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
I want to remind the school board that it cannot request the names of speakers. It is the law. I'm going to speak to the Golden Handshake, and I'm going to state that Golden Handshakes shift money, much needed, for students. Paying money to employees for no work performed benefits adults, and it's detrimental to students. Elaine Arm, she got a CERP, Golden Handshake, $659 a month for life. Jerry Hooper, $587 a month for life. Shirley Peterson, she gets a monthly bonus of $2,153 for 5 years. Paying retired principals, let me see, Shirley Peterson is back, by the way, working as a principal again. So we've also had retired principals come back, and they're babysitting other principals. So we have 2 principals working at the same school. Now, it doesn't make sense that a professional would be hired for a job that that person is supposedly qualified to do, and then need a principal to babysit the principal. That money could have better been spent on other positions and other services for students. So I'm going to say that these Golden Handshakes have not benefited the school district. They turn around and rehire the same people that were retired and given money that they never earned. I don't think that is the purpose of being a public servant, to be earning this type of money just because they decided to retire and get a golden handshake. That's not right. Shouldn't be done. If a person has a job, and they've been here a long time, let them work and let them earn the money that they're entitled to, that they've built up over the years of being here and being a dedicated professional. But don't have people retire and then pay them money that they never earned. That's a burden on the taxpayer, it's a burden on the students, and it's taking money away from kids right now. Elaine Arm will get $659 a month for life. That would have bought a lot of saxophones. It would have bought a lot of pencils. It's not right for one person to be enjoying that kind of money for life. Never earned it.
Lindsay Birmingham, SDEA President. I urge the district to pass this resolution to support the creation of a supplemental early retirement program, and to next week support and pass the Memorandum of Understanding reached between San Diego Unified and SDEA. A SERP is a responsible and respectable way to control staffing that shows your employees that you truly value and respect their years of dedicated service to our students, our schools, our communities, and this district. I urge you to use the SERP to replace the layoffs that you are planning in the SDA bargaining unit. By only filling those positions that you are contractually obligated to and necessary to provide an adequate level of support for students and families, you will save millions of dollars a year. And just a correction, a SERP is not a golden handshake. A golden handshake is when you actually purchase years of service for people. The SERP is a payout in order to show your value and respect for the employees that have devoted years of their life to this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any board questions or comments? If not, please vote. Okay, item C3, this is a public hearing on the district's initial proposal to negotiate a reduction in work year with any required bargaining units. Superintendent?
Thank you, President Barrera. This is our initial proposal, as you said, that we're planning to negotiate the reduction in work year, and C4 is, that's the next item, but it's the sunshining of our initial proposal so we can begin the conversation with our bargaining units.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
And do we have a second? Dr. Whitehurst Payne. Okay, we've got one speaker, citizen. You're not on this? Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, please vote. Okay, item C4. This is a public hearing on the district's initial proposal to negotiate with the San Diego Education Association regarding elementary preparation time. Do we have a motion? Dr. McQuarrie, do we have a second? Mr. Beiser, and we've got two speakers on this item, Keith Kaneko and Cindy Elrod. Oh, we got more. Okay, so I'm going to limit speakers to 1 minute each. Keith Kaneko, Cindy Elrod, Lori Emerson, Joy Schumacher, Christina Snell, and Lindsay Birmingham. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Superintendent Martin, board members. My name is Keith Kaneko, and I am a physical education prep teacher at Hage Elementary School. I would like to share the perspectives and experiences in the words of the students at Hage. Mr. Kaneko, when does the swim program start? I did it. I reached my fitness goal for this school year. When are we going to start participating in the skills for the fitnessgram this year? Do we get to use the pulse oximeters like the 5th graders did? Dance fitness is fun. I like how Mr. Kaneko breaks down all of the steps for us. Board members and Superintendent Martin, those were the words of the students who are not able to be here in person to advocate for themselves this evening. I invite you to come to Hage Elementary School and witness these quotes come alive. I leave you with this thought. It's all about doing what's right for the kids. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Cindy Elrod from Gage Elementary. I'm a physical education teacher. I've been a teacher in San Diego Unified for 36 years. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. One of the goods was the development of elementary school prep time. The bad, finding it was on the list of cuts, and the ugly, prep time eliminated for our students and elementary teachers. Prep time is more than what it reads. It is instruction in the subject matter each site has selected. At Gage Elementary, our focus is physical education. Our students learn movement skills and patterns and how to be physically fit through many ways: self-assessment, technology, writing, graphing, problem solving, just to name a few. As a former district elementary teacher of the year, I had the opportunity to sit on the teacher selection committee for future teacher of the years in our district, and it was amazing to see how many prep time teachers were selected by their staffs to represent their site. We are committed to providing the best educational opportunities for our students. I invite each one of you to visit Gage Elementary to see how prep time is more than just prep time. It's learning at its best. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Lori Emerson. I teach at Sessions Elementary School, and I am a 36-year veteran in the school district. I've taught physical education and science at 3 different grade levels. And I am just here to talk about the prep program that's up for cut. And prep teachers, we aid the teachers so that they can have a much needed time to get ready to teach their kids. They're already overworked. It gives them at least 1 hour a week where they can be in the classroom and teach to the best of their abilities also. And prep teachers, we're the teachers that are out there that touch every single child every single week. And at my school, I have 500 kids that I am blessed to be a part of their lives. We're the ones that the kids come to. They're the ones that no matter what their skill level is, whether it's what we're teaching or not, that they trust us. We're part of communities. We are a big factor in the lives of kids in more than just our specialized fields, and I would hope that you really consider this cut. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a little nervous. My name's Christina Snell, and I am the art teacher at Clay Elementary School, and I'm requesting that you reconsider the proposed changes that you're making to elementary prep time. As you all know, as we all know, studies prove that children who receive an education in the arts develop invaluable skills in creative thinking and problem-solving skills, which enable them to be more successful in math, science, and language arts. Furthermore, prep time teachers, all of us, no matter what we teach, we have a far greater impact on the education of our students than the 1 hour a week that we teach them. And I'd like to invite all of you to come to my school and see what the prep time teachers do and the impact that we have on our children. We work with them year after year, and our impact is big, is huge. And I'd like you to consider that before you change what our positions are. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joy Shoemaker, and I teach PE at Dingman Elementary. Prep teachers are one of a few of the adults on campus that touch the lives of all students on a daily basis and year after year. We are often the ones that see potential problems or request special services for specific students. We help with recess, we help with lunch, we help with parking patrol, and we help students learn to solve problems, negotiate with each other, and have acceptable social skills. My PE program often integrates other subject areas and gives students real-life problems to help them solve. As a PE teacher, I would like to know who will be teaching PE.
as designated by the state ed code. Most classroom teachers will not. Research shows that exercise grows brain cells. Active, healthy students make better learners. Don't take prep away from what is right for students. Thank you.
Lindsay Birmingham, SDA President. I urge the board to not support the district's proposal to eliminate elementary prep time as it's currently offered. I stand in front of you today to tell you that elementary prep time is not just about giving elementary educators the time they need to do their job. 45 minutes or an hour a week does not provide close to enough time that's needed. This program is about providing students access to expert educators in multiple fields such as art, music, technology, science, and physical education. It's about providing students access to enrichment programs and subjects that are often ignored due to district, state, and nation's focus on literacy and mathematics. When SDA unit members fought hard for elementary prep time program years ago, they gave up salary compensation in order for this program to be created. They fought hard for this program not just because they needed time, but because they wanted students to have the highest level of instruction across all subject areas and valued what experts such as prep time teachers would provide. In one fell swoop, you are attempting to devalue this program and its intent. SDEA and SDUSD will return to the bargaining table in April to early May, and this is when such proposals should come forward. If you move forward with laying off these elementary prep time teachers, SDEA will consider this to be a unilateral change and will file an unfair labor practice with the Public Employee Relations Board.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any board member questions or comments? If not, please vote. Okay, item C5, can we get a motion in the reduction in board member compensation?
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Dr. Evans?
Yeah, there was just a mention before about Transparent California, so I think we should be very transparent so that people know the salary for board members is $18,000 per year. This salary was established in the 1990s. There's a provision that it can be raised 3% each year. The board has waived that right every year. When employee increases have been voted, we have also waived our increase at that time, so it stayed the same for all these years. Obviously, with that salary and the number of hours that my fellow board members are putting in, the people are not up here for the money, but I think it's important when we were talking about sacrifices that our employees are making, that we make the same level of sacrifice. So this particular reduction is in line with the proposed reduced work year for some of our employees.
Thank you. We do have one public comment on items C5 and C6, so you'll have 3 minutes, citizen.
I want to speak to them separately.
No, speak to them both, please, at the same time.
Excuse me, but Brown, the rules say I can speak to both issues.
Okay.
And I expect to do that.
Go ahead.
Okay, so John Lee Evans talks about the sacrifices that he's made. So in 14-15, the money was pouring in to the school district. 15-16, state sent even more money. 16-17, state sent even more money. Very generous. But last year, Governor Brown said, be cautious about new spending and programs. And the school board let the superintendent just continue on her spending spree. She added another family engagement office. She was spending millions for quality assurance. She gave $58,000 to Allison Rowland, some Harvard student that wanted money, so she gave her some job. $58,000. Custodian. We could have had a custodian for that money. So when you guys are saying you're going to take a pay cut, you deserve a pay cut. A big pay cut. You hired her. So let's find some answers. How much is the legal office spending? What about transferring to San Diego? Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll speak to the next issue.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. No further comments. Please vote.
I'll move item C6 to reduce the superintendent's compensation to the same level that other employees may realize.
Okay.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Citizen.
And again, Superintendent Martin lacks the experience to understand a budget of this size. So when experienced people were telling her Be careful. There's an economic slowdown just around the corner. The governor said that. Now, the word is that Cindy thought that she was going to get more money. I don't know where that came from, because the January governor's budget is always presented in January. So instead of thinking ahead like an experienced superintendent would have done, she has led us into a mess where 800 people are going to lose their jobs. And this is because you were spending money left and right. I can't even begin to tell you all the places that she spends money, and now she's complaining there isn't enough money, I have to lay all of you off. So let me explain that she's not taking a pay cut. She is not taking a pay cut. She's going to work less. So let's say...
Thank you.
All right, Mr. President, thank you. First of all, before commenting on this, I just want to comment that I really appreciate the civility and thoughtfulness of the vast majority of people who have come here today to speak about a very, very difficult topic, and so I really appreciate that. And I do want to comment on the superintendent compensation issue, because we were involved in negotiating the first contract with our superintendent. And we have facts and we have alternative facts. And so I want to be very clear about what the facts are. When we hired our superintendent, we chose a particular salary which was below what other districts in the area with smaller student populations have. We set a particular salary. But what we said was, for the first 3 to 4 years, we are going to cut that salary, and you're going to have to gradually work up to your salary for the next 3 to 4 years. So this was not a salary increase. It was actually a concession that this is the salary we want to give you, but we're going to have you work up to that for the first few years. So I think that's very important for people to understand this. And furthermore, we are dealing with the potential of some employees having a reduced work year, which will reduce their salaries overall for the year by about 5%. The superintendent is not going to work any less. She is simply taking the same pay cut that the others will have due to working less. So I just think it's very clear that people understand that.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Evans. Any further comments? If not, please vote. Okay, and I noticed that Ms. Donovan just ran out of the room, so. Oh, you got that in writing? Okay. This is item B1.
This is the report on the actions from today's closed session.
Here we go.
I apologize for that. I could not get my phone to turn off. This evening in closed session, the board unanimously authorized to provide March 15th notices to 79 certificated administrators, including all central office administrators, all vice principals, and principals that have been receiving support or on special assignment. Additionally, the board voted unanimously in closed session to authorize the release of all temporary certificated employees at the end of the 16-17 school year pursuant to Education Code 44954.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.